彼の残した言葉の中にもあるんですが、いい写真を撮るための最初の条件、これはカメラを持っていることだと。彼が一番思考していたのは、多くの人にいかに写真を撮ってもらうか。
1960年代に前谷さんというオリンパスの技術者がいましてね。
カメラが当時はまだ高級品なので、前谷さんをはじめとする開発の方々が多くの人に使ってもらうにはどうしたらいいかって考えた中で、カメラ自体をもっと安く作りたい。
当時6000円で作れないかっていうふうにできたカメラです。
そして当時高かったフィルム代、現像代を少しでも負担を減らしたい。そうしたらハーフサイズのカメラを作ろう。そうすると倍撮れるので、すごく経済的です。
で35ミリカメラの24枚だと48枚撮れます。それが非常に画期的だということで、使われた。ペンが出た時にオリンパスを持って家族写真を撮ったりなんかする人が非常にいましたですね。
主にプロを中心として使う機材が変わってきていた。なるべくいいものを作ろうと各社していて、どうしても大きくなってしまっている。その中で前谷はやっぱりプロが本当に求めるものってそういうことなのかっていうことに疑問を感じて、その中で生まれたのが OM1 だと考えています。
結局彼がこれ集大成なんですね。やっぱりかなり命が吹き込まれたカメラではないかなっていうふうに僕は思います。
When I got into the newspaper business, it was just coming off the time when 2.25 was kind of the equipment preferred. The guy that hired me came from the speed graphic day, the 4x5. As technology progressed, all of a sudden it was accepted that 35 millimeter was great for newspaper work. It's not as physically imposing as a larger camera. The more I become invisible, the more I can become part of the scene, the more the photographic opportunities present themselves to me. The camera, it becomes a productive tool. It's there for a purpose. Maitani realized that, and that drove the original design of the OM. When you put it in your hand, everything was where you wanted it to be. The aperture's right here. My two front fingers take care of that. Other fingers fall back to the shutter speed. It's an enabler, it's a conduit, not an interference between you and what's happening.
1996年にオリンパスは最初の民生品のデジタルカメラを出したわけですけれども、フィルムであろうとデジタルであろうとないものを作るというのは全社共通で、今でも一番ベーシックなところに流れているのではないかなと考えます。
デザインを検討するときにスケッチを書いて最初検討して、その次にですね 3D データを入れてからこのようなラフな削りのモデルを作ります。でこれをベースにボタンの位置が適切であるかとか、あるいはグリップ性能はこれでいいかとかっていうのを検討していくんですけれども、我々が一番に考えていることはやはり使われる方、ユーザーのことです。
There's certainly an emotional connection with your camera. As soon as you pick it up, you know, you have a feeling. It's the design, it's how it looks, and it's how it's going to support you in achieving the image that you want to capture. Size and portability and mobility in photography is a message that we've been talking about for decades. The philosophy of the Olympus cameras is being able to shoot everywhere. We had a photographer go to Antarctica, and obviously you've got crazy low temperatures there. We created technology that enables them to do that. If you were that customer, what would the end solution be that you would want? It's important to always be thinking about what do people need, what are they going to need, what's the future going to be, and to aspire to deliver that.
災害に遭われた方が取り戻したいものの最も大事なものの一つがやっぱ写真なんですね。それって単なる現像された紙ではなくて、その当時の家族の思い出がやはりそこに残っているってみんなが思うので、思い出を取り戻したいという気持ちがあると思うんです。 つまり写真にはそれだけの力があると思っています。
I've got a photograph of our son. I think he was a year old. It's got the catch light in his eyes. Wonderful moment of him getting ready to tap the glass. It's not a great photograph, but it's a great moment. Wow, look at that. I remember that. Oh, look at this. You know, raising your kids, the pains and the struggle and the exhaustion and the joys and all these things that occur. What a wonderful confirmation it is of you as a human. This is who we are and who we were.
今でもそのものを作るにあたってはお客様の声というのをすごく大事にしています。舞谷が残した言葉の一つに、我々はカメラを開発提供しているんではなくて、カメラを通じて人々が幸せになることを提供しているんだという言葉があります。ないから作る、その精神というのを日々実現しようと、これこそが社会に対するオリンパスの役割だと思っています。
Good day, everybody, and welcome to my YouTube live. It is, of course, Coffee Wednesday, and I hope you guys have a cup of coffee ready, because it's going to be a long one today, or because I have a lot to talk about high ISO, as you know from the title already. But it's more about just about photography philosophy, and there's something I want to show you today as well. So just before I do that, of course, I have to introduce myself for those who just joined us and maybe your first time here. My name is Jimmy Cheng. I'm a professional photographer and filmmaker. So I've been in the industry for about 15 years. So this channel is all about sharing my experience in photography and video makings and the philosophy behind it. Not so much about, I would say, how to do this and how to do that, because, you know, my wonderful YouTube colleagues such as Peter Forsgard and also Robin Wongs are doing fantastic job at telling all the tips and tricks how to operate your cameras. I'm simply just sharing my practical experience, having been someone in the industry and also, you know, just making money from photography, just trying to share a lot of my tips in real life situations, more so to speak. But anyway, so and also, you know, of course, I'm an ambassador for Olympus, so I'll be kind of have a focus on Olympus gears, but I have been in the industry way before I joined Olympus. So if you have any questions about photography in general, I'm here to help. So that's all I want to say. But anyway, today is very interesting because it's about high ISO. As you know, this, I would guess, the high ISO thing has always been one of the negatives, or I wouldn't use the word negative, but herculus in the smaller sensor systems, whether it's going to be micro four, even APS-C when you compare to like full frame, for instance. But you may be surprised because I have something to show you just a little bit later as well, and it might actually shock you a little bit. But beside that, I think for those who basically started photography in the digital era, or when digital photography started to become popularized, you know, you probably wouldn't understand a lot about you know, what we used to call it in the film days, the sensitivities of the film or speed of the films. You know, these days you shoot at 1600, 2400, 3200 fairly commonly. You know, it depends what sort of thing you do. If you go wildlife, for instance, if you do a lot of bird chasings in the jungle, you do need a lot of high ISO stuff because you need the speed to capture and freeze the frame of the animal running, for instance. So there is a lot of problems there, and but you know, this applies to any sort of formats of cameras, regardless of whether it's going to be medium format, full frame, whatever. There is always a limit. I know there are, you know, in full frame, you know, these days they can go crazy high, you know, and you can still get relatively clean image, but only after processing, right? You all know that if you shoot raw, if you blow it up to a pixel level, you see they are still quite noisy, and that's a fact. And if you go to just the, if you input your raw photo to your, you know, any sort of photographic software, just click everything by default. Don't apply anything to it. Just look at those pixels and you see how noisy they are once you go past 16 or 3200. These days, because, you know, a lot of them have very high resolutions, very high megapixel counts, you will find that you know, like in relative terms, they look cleaner. But if you actually look closer, they are just as noisy, and there's no difference about, you know, whether it's going to be 20, 50, 100. There's no difference whatsoever. I'm talking about pixel terms, not about as an overall image, yeah. And obviously, when you shrink it down, and if you look at it just purely just like the screen resolution, so if even you blow it up just slightly bigger, you will find, of course, the larger format, the full frame, perhaps will be slightly cleaner, only because the perceived sharpness, the perceived details, the perceived noise to ratio is a lot lower compared to smaller format, and that's all it is. But today, I want to show you exactly what I have been experiencing as being a photographer who photographed low light a lot. As you can see from the thumbnail photo there, you see, I shoot wedding, of course, and this is one of my bread and butter, although that doesn't exist this year, unfortunately, because all my weddings got cancelled, apart from I've done a couple, you know, which is kind of like a last minute thing. But anyway, doesn't really happen this day. But I was trying to share with you some of the images that I took in high ISO settings, and what you can minimize it, first of all, using your photographic skills. Although I did mention that this video is not about shooting skill, because you all know about that already, but more on the editing side of it. Whether you should be afraid of using high ISO, and I'll explain a little bit more why you shouldn't be afraid of using high ISO, for instance, depending on what you're going to use your image for. Okay, so before I jump into my detailed conversation, let's say hi to everybody. And I know a lot of people are starting saying hi already, so I might as well just starting to say some hi. So Hart, good morning, and then Taru, hello from Japan. Are you watching something from DXO Lab? Something I'm going to show you today is also relating to DXO, so you have to stay tuned for that, and a little bit in a minute. So Xavier, Spankster, Marsha, hello there, good morning from Florida. Camille, hello. ZL from Canada, Toronto. Hello, Toronto. Robin, as me, Andrew, Patrick, hello from UK as well. Which part of UK are you from, Patrick? And Morgan, Christian, Mark, Victor. I like that. ISO 1605. Brilliant. I like that. I like that. And Asnimi is from Malaysia. Hello there. And Seraphine, hello there. And KA from Singapore. Rob, of course. Rob. Peter, hello. And Leon, Ignor, Tim. Great stuff. Great stuff. And Calvin, Casper, Zibik. Michael Forfeit AF suck. Well, I'm telling you, it's not suck. It doesn't suck at all. You know, depending on what sort of camera you're using. Yeah, if you're using some of the, oh fucking hell, sorry, I'm so sorry. I swear. I think it's because it's very dim at the moment, and I need to just wait a second. I need to just adjust. Going to disturb my talk today, and I just don't want to do it. I want to focus on exactly what I want to demonstrate later in terms of how to edit in noises and things like that. So that would be something. Okay, it's not about the ISO, because I think the ISO is okay. The autofocus is also working fine, and okay, never mind. Okay, Peter and Adam. Hello, Adam from Florida. Oh, quite a few of you from Florida. And Gurish, hello. And Harvard. Okay, from Norway. Ed, JOJ, and Piotr. Patrick, oh yeah, Patrick's already here. Oh, Cambridgeshire. Okay, nice. What's the weather like there? In London is not good at all, even though it may look it from the screen at the moment, but it's very dull. I'm actually overexposing the scene at the moment, which is something I want to demonstrate as well. Because I saw a comment on Facebook once I post the thumbnail of this particular photo, or the thumbnail of this this video is obviously the wedding couples doing the first dance. People were talking about the lighting issues, and you know, you can simply just blast a lot of the flashlight and just lit up the whole scene. Why do you shoot high ISO, for instance? Okay. Enough of hello. Let's jump straight into it, because this is a really good point here. So, for a lot of people who are not working in the low light photography scenes a lot, you probably wouldn't know in terms of practicality wise in how you should use your ultra fast prime, when you should use ultra fast prime, when you should use high ISO, when you should pump out a lot of artificial light, whether it's going to be LED or speed lights. Right. The truth is, okay, it really depending on situation, and forget that. just look at the photo that I posted. I'm going to just share the screen at the moment. So this is exact photo that you see from the thumbnail. Okay, so I'm going to show you this. So this photo here, you can see that this particular place is very, very dark. And then it doesn't look it, but it's very, very dark. I would say in reality, this particular shot is actually about, I would say, another 2 to 3 stops lower in terms of light level. So what you're seeing here, I'm actually overexposing what it actually is by about 2 to 3 stops. And that's how dim it is. So people may not actually understand why I use high ISO for this particular shot, because oh, you got 2 speed light, they're pumping out lots of light to the couples and things like that. The thing is, I really have to strike the balance here in this particular shot. First of all, I need the high ISO to capture the ambient light colors. Yeah, don't forget that when you pump out artificial light, if it's too strong, it will overpowering everything and you lose the color in this particular shot. And that means everything look flat, everything just look boring. You lose the atmosphere from the actual shot itself. And secondly, it's movement, right? Okay, a lot of people, if you're using Olympus system or Panasonic who has really cool IBIS, you know that we can do crazy stuff, right? You all know that we can do like 2, 3, 10 seconds handheld, you know, no problem. But can I do that? No. This is a live shot. People are actually moving around. So that means I will get motion blur from off everybody. So I chose a relatively slow shutter speed, slow enough to just about, you know, and to freeze the frame. So it's 1/30th of a second. So this particular shot, the setting is ISO 3200, is f2.8. Because we're shooting this with the 7-14 2.8 in the Ollie lens, and then I have the shutter speed at 1/30th of a second. As simple as that. I actually expose the ambient to the lighting level that I would like to see and the output, and then I just adjust the speed light level just enough to do the to actually have a rim light around them. So I actually have a very low power light there, because otherwise it would be too much and too strong. It would just kill everything. So this is how I expose a shot. So this is exactly what I'm trying to say to you guys, is that if you are not familiar with these sort of settings and you think that, oh, I just do using IBIS, I can do low exposure, I can pull the ISO back down to 400, 800. Yes, you can easily do that. But if I have the same exposure, I will reduce my ISO sensitivity by 3 to 4 stops. And imagine the shutter speed I need to capture this same scene with the same color level or the lighting level. That means I will have to use half a second, maybe 1 second, just to capture the same thing. But can I do that with 1 second? Of course I can. But then all the people will be slightly blurred because they'll be turning, looking, you know, it just doesn't look nice. And secondly, and then remember about photography, regardless of what you do, is all about setting the right exposure at the right time. And it's simple, just thinking of it like back in the film days. Can we adjust things on the fly like this? No. You know, we really have to assess the scene and dictate exactly what we should be using to take that particular shot. So it's a very technical thing, and also a very technical decision you make at that moment in time. So this is the trick about being a professional, doing this day in, day out. You'd have that experience, you have that knowledge, and you have to apply both together to make sure that you capture that particular scene easily and correctly. I never worry about high ISO, because if I need to capture the shot in high ISO, so be it. And don't forget also, depending on what your output is. Right. In a commercial environment, if you do something like this in high ISO, I deliver this photo through 2 forms, 2 medium. One is print, of course. I print albums, and second is digital files. Okay, digital files, they receive it, but you have to consider how many people would actually do pixel peeping, you know, as a client. They more likely will look at the album day after day after day. So they're looking at the print. They never look at the digital file. They will share the photos. Maybe they will put some of the favorite ones on the iPads, iPhone to keep it there so they can show people whenever they see them, or simply just email them out and post it on Instagram or Facebook. And for those, you know, you are only talking about 4 to 8 megapixel files in reality terms. So like that means you don't really see the noise or anything like that. So in reality, 3200 is totally acceptable. Even 6400, I was just pushing them. But 6400 is still kind of okay. And especially on Instagram, you know, like you just can't see the detail whatsoever. So this is something that I urge you to consider when, you know, if you are really serious about developing your skills to the next level, you really shouldn't worry about it, even when you want to enter competition. Yeah, and obviously, depending on what sort of thing you are, if you're looking at fine art, and that's totally different, they will look at details and things like that. But if you're entering competitions such as street photography, travel photography, it's not too bad. You know, don't worry about it, because it's all about capturing that moment, the timing, and the executions, and everything that I really just talked about. And it's very simple. So just talk a little bit about light as well, and because you guys can very easily set high ISO, low ISO, using longer shutter speed, utilizing IBIS and all sorts of stuff. But look at even my setting right now. Let me just go back to here. So let me, sorry, there we go. Oh, no, not this one, this one. Okay, and sorry, I've just got too many buttons on my program here. Okay, so just look at this scene at the moment. I actually have an artificial light here. So if I just expose my ambient, so this would be me. You know, and it doesn't look good, and you can see the focus already hunting a little because it's getting a little bit dim here. So if I turn it back on, and I'm trying to balance the actual lighting here and also the outside light, and just get a little bit more balance here, so it's just a little bit easier to digest, at least for the system to understand exactly what's going on. This is something that I will I will actually do a proper YouTube video later on about focusing and things like that, because it's interesting for many people, and for those who may not understand a lot about actual how it works behind the scene, and that's the video that I'm making at the moment. So hopefully that will be interesting for you guys. But okay, so hopefully you guys understand it. If you don't, please raise your hand, although I can't see you. But yeah, do something on the comment section, then I'll see you guys. So far so good. Let me see if there is some comments here. And right, okay. Oh, there was no, I know people talk about sound, because when I adjust the ISO or something like that on the camera, I've noticed there's interruptions in sound, so sorry about that, but it does happen. Okay, yes, Peter, I do understand, and that's exactly what's going on. When I adjust the brightness, or actually not the brightness, I was actually adjusting the ISO sensitivity on the camera for this particular stream at the moment, and it does happen. I don't know why every time it does it, and there's nothing I can do but I needed the setting to pump up a little bit, because otherwise it gets just a little bit too dark. Okay, oh, another hello, Fangi Lin, that's from Taiwan. Hello. Oh, we have people from Taiwan. That's cool. So we'd love to see Topaz versus DXO debate for noise management. You're in luck today, because I am going to talk about it, although barely, because I actually never used Topaz, but I am going to demonstrate DXO's latest PhotoLab 4. And okay, this is not really a review, but I did get invited to their pre-launch presentation, so I was there. I was looking over, kind of have a look at the software there, because I reviewed their PhotoLab 3 few months back now, and I kind of, you know, liked it, because I used their NIC software as well, which is something that I've been using for all my black and white conversions since the start of digital photography. So it's been that long. So I love that software. So I might as well just have a look at DxO. Yeah, you know, I've never really kind of you know, used it before, and I was quite impressed with the DxO PhotoLab 3. Right, so I got invited to have a look at PhotoLab 4. So I lose contrast, lose the thing. Let me just adjust the. Anyway, so this is something that I will be looking at today, and show you why I think this PhotoLab 4 is pretty cool. But before I jump into that, hopefully you get the gist of what I just talked about photography in general, and why you shouldn't worry about high ISO setting, and also when you should be utilizing high ISO and in certain situation and certain scenario, because it is very, very important as a photographer to know when to apply certain settings. And I know for a lot of people, even myself included, when I do workshops and tell people you should be using as low ISO as possible, but remember the last word, possible. Yeah, so if it's not possible to do it, just pump up the ISO. Don't worry about it. You know, in photography, it's all about capturing the moment. And like I mentioned, unless you're talking about fine art stuff, which is totally different categories out there. But overall, we are capturing the moments, right? You know, so you really shouldn't worry too much about it at all. Okay, and let's see. Oh, Ira, hello from Brunswick, Canada. Hello. Manchester from John. Hello there. Okay, Camille, right. I don't normally shoot above ISO 3200. I often shoot with the base ISO 200, raise the exposure to stop, and they can be sharper, blah, blah, blah. Yes, we talked about these, I think, a few months back now, about the ISO, what's the word now? I can't remember exactly. You know, like when you shoot a ISO 200, if you artificially pump up 5 stop, is equivalent to ISO 3200 or something like that. Could be, that could be the case, you know, but I in practical terms, that's not the way to do it, you know. I like to see things through the viewfinder as how it would turn out in my photograph, and I think that's the beauty of EVF. That's the beauty of shooting an electronic mirrorless cameras, right? You know, you can see what you get. You know, when you see it through the viewfinder, this is exactly the shot. I need to have that feel when I see it. So that's why I don't mind shooting a 3200. I just pump it up. I want to see it exactly what it's going to turn out, what it's going to look like before I click the shutter. And these days, I think I'm getting too spoiled now. You know, I can't move back to DSLR anymore because I can't go through the whole process of guessing. You know, you're looking OVF, I have to look at the screen just to check the exposures. Because in the old days, obviously in film days, you kind of relying on the latitude of the actual analog films itself, because in negatives, you get a little bit to play with. So even if you're under or overexposed by a stop, even, you know, you can easily pull back or pull up a little bit of details and without damaging the actual quality of the film too much. So that's okay in films. But in digital, it's a little bit more tricky. And of course, if you shoot in low ISO, you know, you got a little bit to play with. But when you shoot in high ISO, it's almost like shooting with positive films. You know, you got very, very limited scope in terms of highlight, details, and shadow. You know, once you blow out the highlight, you can't recover it, and that's it, and then you're almost dead. So you really have to make sure that the exposure is correct, and that's why a lot of people like on YouTube are talking about exposure to the right and bring up the shadow, because that shadow is all the rubbish and junk noise and things like that there. But if you expose to the right too much, and don't forget that you may also risking the chance of blowing the highlight completely. So you really have to be very, very careful there. I don't really mind actually just slightly overexposed to the right, but not too much to the right. And I know many actually advise you to do that just to minimize the noise level and things like that, because I do agree that. However, I think in practical terms, and this is not how I deal with the real life situation when I'm shooting weddings, when I'm shooting low light photography, that's not how I deal with it. Okay, let's see what other people are talking about here. The high ISO use is 6300, you're probably 6400. Still okay on the EM5 Mark II. And James Wang from Brunei, hello there. John, yes, everyone from Ohio. Cool. Right, and D-Line, hello. Excellent stuff. And James Wang, will noise say ISO 6400 be same as EM10 and EM1X? Interesting question. I haven't do a side-by-side comparison, but I do actually think the EM1X is just a tad little bit better. They are different sensors. They're slightly different sensors. So even though they have the same resolution, but they're actually different sensors. So you probably will find that there are some technical differences between the EM1X sensor compared to the EM10 Mark IV, even though it's brand new, it's got 20 megapixels and so forth. But I think the EM1X is actually just a little bit more superior in that regard. So okay, let's talk a little bit about the my usual workflow when I'm looking at high ISO images. I think some of you guys are here because you want to see how I edit my photos, right? Okay, I do have my Lightroom and DXO PhotoLab open, and so let's jump right into it. So let me just bring up my Lightroom. So let me just bring up the same photo that we're looking at. Okay. So let me share the screen right now so you guys can see exactly what is going on behind the scenes. So let me just go to the screen share stage. Right, okay, this is my Lightroom. here we go. So this is the same photo that we were looking at. Obviously, I have done a ton of editing in this particular shot, not only for the colors, but also for geometric correction, because I was shooting at the 7:14, which is an ultra wide. The scope of doing that is because I can straighten the line a little bit. I can shoot just like top down. But you know that when you utilize a ultra wide angle lens, if you're not shooting at the horizon level or leveling with your subject, everything's going to be distorted. And then so I have applied some geometrical correction right here on Lightroom. So if I come up here and just give you a preview of exactly what happened before, right? I'm trying to find the icon because there are so many things actually happening at the moment. So if I go this, oh, not this one, sorry. I am just so weird. Right, okay, let me just do the reset so you can see exactly what it looks like before and after. So this is how you see it. So I did, remember I did overexpose the scene because you know, like what I just said about slightly overexposed to the right. Okay, so this is what's after. And also, if you look at a lot of the setting on the side, I pull back the highlight a little bit on the right hand side here, a little bit of shadow pull back up a little bit just to bring out those lovely people on the side, and the white level just a little bit lower, and the black is higher because I just need to kind of bring up all the details once again. Apart from that, it's very straightforward. But if you look at the noise level at the moment, right, if I bring it up, so hopefully you guys can see it, it's quite noisy. Right, but it's not to the point that I would say horrible. And this is shot at 3200, remember, and so it's actually very respectable. But now, if you want a slightly cleaner images, you know, like this is before I play around with DXO PhotoLab 4. So on Lightroom here, if I apply noise reduction, I need to pump it all the way up because it's 3200. So let's see what happened. Right, instantly, did you see what happened there? A lot of smudging. A lot of smudging here. You can see the detail at the back here. You know, if you like shrink it back down, it's not too bad at all. But once you blow it up, and you can instantly see that the details here, especially on the line here, at the background here, is all smudgy. And that's not very nice. The subject itself is not too bad. You can see the details of the eyes and the nose are all fairly clear, and just not the right thing. But if I switch it back off again, okay, now instantly it looks a lot sharper, right? In fact, the sharpness is there because a lot of people did say that when you bump up the ISO, you lose a lot of details. The details are actually there just because there are a lot of ambient, well, I would say the color noise, and also because the signal is being amplified, and that's why you see a lot of little dots everywhere. Okay, so if I jump over to PhotoLab, right? Okay. Well, this photo at the moment, it hasn't been, well, I kind of adjust some leveling here, just trying to make it match the Lightroom file. Instantly you can tell that there's some differences here. Right, okay. Let's see. Okay, at the moment I haven't applied any noise reduction. Nothing at all at the moment. And but if I go up here to the noise level, right, one thing I have to tell you that I cannot show you exactly the output of the noise reduction in the PhotoLab 4 simply because it doesn't do a preview for some reason if I use the highest or the newest setting, which I'm going to talk to you a little bit in detail today. So you can see on the right panel here, I don't know if you can see my mouth cursor here. So at the moment in the DXO denoising technologies, it has the standard HQ, and it has the prime, and it has DeepPRIME. DeepPRIME is brand new for PhotoLab 4. This is something that I haven't seen before when I was reviewing the PhotoLab 3, and it just had the HQ and the prime. HQ is, I don't know why actually they separate into 3 tabs in a way. You know, like if you have a really good one, why don't you just have the DeepPRIME or the prime itself? And why do they keep HQ? Because HQ doesn't do a whole lot. You know, it's just basically a very simple noise reduction, fairly similar to what Lightroom is. The prime is slightly better So if I actually do a magnification here, so you can see this box here, I can actually magnify to the people. Oh, that's better. Let's do it at the back here, because that's what I'm telling you about where the detail is. So I can instantly, you can see this little box here on the right hand side. It highlights the detail in 1:1. And so this is in HQ format. And if you go to Prime, you can see that thing is spinning, and it was starting to reduce the noise level, but slightly more intelligently. So it's a slightly better noise reduction. But the really interesting thing is now it's called DeepPRIME. So what it is actually the brand new AI kind of thing, and it's analyzing the whole scene and seeing how it's almost like a little brain within it. Well, they call it the deep learning noise reduction. And when I was hearing the presentation a few weeks ago, and it's all sounded familiar, because at the moment, like I mentioned to you guys on Facebook Live before, everything's about deep learning now. Everything is about AI stuff, and I know Topaz is also about AI stuff as well. So that's why people are talking about both Topaz and also the DXO at this moment in time, because now they have it here, and because they're having similar kind of deep learning technologies, and they are both fairly effective. But I'm going to show you something, because I don't have Topaz myself, but I have a presentation slide still in my computer. So I'm going to show you exactly what they have in the presentation. They do compare the DXO DeepPRIME noise reduction to the Topaz denoise. So it's a very interesting thing here. But before I jump into that, let's talk a little bit more about the DeepPRIME itself here. So if I go to DeepPRIME, and this thing, it does everything in the background. Unfortunately, I have no idea why the program itself doesn't refresh to generate the noise-free, supposedly noise-free image. So what I need to do if I want to show you the image is to actually export this photo in real time, and then I can show you exactly what's going on. So like, let me just export this photo. I do apologize, because the actual computer is a little bit slow, because you can imagine I'm running two photo editing software, running the live stream at the moment, and it's taking a big toll on the actual system itself. So just let me just export this now. So I'm going to export this in standard output. So this is going to be high resolution. So let's do it in 300 ppi and export. So let's see, I'm going to use a unique name because I want to show you exactly what's going on. So it does its job at the moment, but while doing that, let me show you the DXO slide here. So this is the DXO slide. Okay, right, you can see that now, guys. You have the PhotoLab 4 on the left, and you have the Adobe Lightroom 2020 in the middle, and has Topaz on the right hand side. I do have this same file here, which I was going to show you in a minute as well. So you can see the differences between them, and this is all done through AI, or in the Lightroom case, because they don't have Lightroom, they just they don't have AI, so they just have to apply for the standard noise reduction there. So you can see the differences between these three versions here. So which one would you prefer to see in terms of just by looking at that? I know at the moment YouTube is heavily compressing the live feed, so it's probably a little bit harder to tell the differences. But then you can still kind of see in terms of color tones, and you can probably just about tell the details and in terms of sharpness, and also the amount of textures within the frame itself. Whether which one would you prefer to see? The one on the left, the one in the middle, or the one on the right? Of course, you may be able to rescue the one on the right a little bit by pumping out a little bit more, do more adjustment in terms of lightings and colorings and things like that, or saturations. But just by itself, I think from this particular demonstration, I do think PhotoLab wins. And first of all, if you look at if let me just blow it up a little bit, so you can see, so you can see, hang on a second. So you can see the detail here. I know it's a little bit blocky because I just blow up the PDF file. So you can see the detail is definitely way more, especially at the back here. See the bit on the top here above the head here, and also compared to the Lightroom. It's no comparison here. The PhotoLab does have a lot more details being extracted from the noisy files. I'm going to show you the original later. And the Topaz, it has the detail. It extracted the details very well, but it lost all the colors for some reason. And this is something I do not know why, and maybe this is how it is in terms of Topaz. Like I said, I haven't used one before, so it's very hard for me to basically say out loud which one is, whether it will turn out like this, because I haven't used one. I know Peter Forsker has the Topaz, the noise, and also other Topaz products, so maybe he will be a better person to ask to answer that. But judging by what they presented to me, and it's very easy to say that PhotoLab is way better than Lightroom. And this is Lightroom. Don't forget, Lightroom has been my work tool for over 10 years now. I've been using that for all my professional jobs. If I know I have this, I probably have used this by now. But don't forget that this is brand new AI technologies, and that didn't exist 10 years ago. So this is totally new, and something to is quite interesting to learn. Okay, so let's see. Let's see in here. And it's me, Alex. Don't forget to breathe. I know, I talk too fast. I know, that's the problem. When I get excited about something, I'll just simply talk too fast. That's not right? Okay, let me just get rid of this first. Oops. So let's go back to the file that I'm looking at. Okay. So let's go. Oh yes, I exported a photo. Let me just go to find the photos for you guys. And actually, where did I export it? I have no idea where I did that. Okay, I think it's in pictures, and then that's the new one. That's the new one. Right. Okay. Okay. Right. This is the photos that I just exported. Now on the screen, you probably can't actually see the difference, but things are gonna change when I blow it up. So if I move it in, this is the maximum I can blow it up now. Can you see it's actually very, very good. I'm actually very impressed how it deals with the detail. Not only that the noisy areas are almost gone, is completely flattened, but you can still see that all the details and around the edges of the frame, even the fabric. Can you see the fabric curtain in here? And imagine this is shot at 3200. And usually this sort of area will be a mess, will be a complete mess. Just let me go back to Lightroom to show you exactly the same thing. Right, I'm trying to go back here. Right, let's see. Oops, can you see the noise? This is already, if I apply noise reduction, right, this is how it is now. Okay, right, instantly, can you tell the difference between the two? Right, this is Lightroom with noise reduction on. This is PhotoLab 4 with the DeepPRIME AI noise reduction thing that they really rave about. This is a good play. Oh my god, it just is quite different. It's it's almost like no comparison there. This is very smudgy, very pasty, very just not real. It doesn't look good. Obviously when you zoom out, that's different. But when you're zooming in, and look at this. It's almost no detail left anymore. It's almost look fake in a way. But if you look at this again, okay, look at the detail at the top here. Right, I'm trying to put it side by side, and okay, let me just close this, minimize this one here. Okay, hope you guys can see it. Camille, yes, I put the link in my description. If you go to the actual video description, you can see the link to the PhotoLab itself. You can download the trial straight from there, and it's cool. So you can actually try it out yourself, and let me know how you get on, because obviously I'm not selling PhotoLab. I'm just playing with it, and it's actually very, very cool. And I've been playing with it for the last few days, and I'm just quite impressed so far. Judging by just this particular feature alone, this noise reduction alone, could potentially be a game changer for a lot of stuff that I do, because I could extract a lot more details from all my high ISO shots. And there's more to do as well. I need to show you another thing, is that it almost gives you new life. It gives new life to your older photos, because let me show you another thing now, and let's go back to a PhotoLab. Right, so let's go to another photo now. So this one we've probably seen enough of this one, and very, very similarly. Oops, I think I have lost my I need to go to another photo, which where it is now. Okay, so that's the photo we saw earlier. Let me just get another. I've got too many windows open, sorry. I need to get to my images. Right, is it this one here? That's the one, right. Okay, so now I have a ton of other photos to play with. So this is these are the photos that DxO gave me to have a play with. These are because it's good for them to let me have a play with other files, because you know it's good for them to have a whole selection of different cameras as well, because I can actually have a play with all the different file, different formats. There are I'm going to show exactly what I mean. Yeah, there are many different formats and also camera bodies. So this particular photo that you saw earlier, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't have guessed what it is. So if I don't know if you can see the actual, let me just bring it in now. I don't know if you can see, oops, sorry. I don't know if you can see the actual panel on the side here. That's exactly what it is. It's shot with a GFX Fuji medium format. Yeah, it's shot with this 50S. It was shot with a very high resolution medium format camera at ISO 3200 once again, at f4, 1 to 1/25 of a second. And it's so a medium format camera, you would expect it to be fairly clean. And the fact is, no, it isn't. Right, this is obviously zoomed out at the moment. Let's bring it to 1:1 level. Right, this is the shot. So I think you guys can see it, and so it isn't actually that much cleaner than a Micro Four Thirds camera. And I can tell you the truth now, if I shoot with a Micro Four Thirds camera, I'll probably get exactly the same thing. Maybe even better, because it does look like it lost a little bit sharpness there, and the detail is a bit smudgy. And then that is quite shocking coming from a medium format camera. But anyway, this is a file that they gave me, so I had to play with it. So this is okay. So let's have a look at this DeepPRIME thing again. So at the moment, let's go to high HQ. The denoising HQ. So, and also let me switch it off so you can see exactly what it looks like. So now I switch off the denoising at loud. Okay. so this is the file without any noise reduction. And remember I told you at the beginning of this video? So at pixel level, the noise are equivalent, regardless whether it's going to be big format, small format, or Micro Four Thirds, APS-C, full frame, or medium format. If you're looking at that, it's actually very similar. Only when you zoom out, that it may present to you a better image. But when you go back in, it just see all these pixels and all this noise here and there everywhere. Okay. Now, let's apply the standalone noise reduction, which does a decent job, but then again, it looks very Lightroom-like, and all the details are gone, and then the smudging's going on, this huge amount of detail has been lost. It just doesn't look nice at all. So if you use Prime, let's do Prime now, and instantly, it does give you a preview for Prime, so you can see the difference now. Let me just go switch back and forth so you can see it. So let's off. So this is HQ, and this is Prime. There is a little bit more detail on the hair itself here, and a little bit more detail on the eyes here. But let's go to DeepPRIME. So let's bring in a highlight box here, and let me just bring in the eye level, so you can see the eye. Hopefully, yep, that's on the right here. You can see the eyes here. Let's go to DeepPRIME. So let's have a look at the preview here. Right. I don't know how well you can see it, but I can see instantly along the eye line here, especially the eye bags, definitely got way more detail than what it is, than what it was before. So if I export this photo now, let me just export it into the same thing, and let's go back to HQ, so we can have a comparison here. Let me just bring it off. So this is HQ. So it's still exporting. Right, just wait a second. Like I mentioned, it's doing this live at the moment, so I can't speed it up. You just have to wait a little bit of it. Any problem, just let me know and I will be answering. So hopefully it will come out very soon. And is it done? I think it may be done. Let's see. Nope, it isn't done yet. What happened there? The file disappeared. Okay, that's a little bit strange. I can't see the file. The file seems to be disappeared. That's not right. And okay, let me export one more time using DeepPRIME. And let's export the file once again. Maybe I shouldn't turn everything. Let's overwrite it and let's see. Okay, use a unique name. Okay, guys, if you've got any question whatsoever, you're very welcome to ask me. So James Wong, okay, obviously 1:1 on a 50 megapixel medium format sensor will give you more detail than a 20 megapixels, and the noise will be respectively smaller and size and less noticeable. That is correct, and that's exactly what I told you about. And it's perceived less noise, and when you're looking at a bigger or high resolution image in general. But a lot of people always say that the larger format would be cleaner, but as a matter of fact, it isn't cleaner. It's about the same. It's just that you are not looking at things in detail. But of course, when you're looking at a file like this, if you're putting in a much smaller screen, for instance, you will be okay, because obviously you will look cleaner. It will look cleaner, but technically it isn't cleaner. It's about the same. But that's something about this software here, because if you look at, I'm going to show you another couple of sample images at the moment, so you see for yourself. Let me just go back here to what exactly happening here. Right. So some reason it's not exporting well. I have no idea where that image gone. Right, this is annoying because I can't export the photo. That's the photo exported earlier, and now it's not exporting things at all. Okay, that's a little bit weird, but okay, that's a bugger. See if I can't export it. Right, this is not what I was expecting. Let's export a JPEG then, and then I can't be bothered to see. Okay, maybe a DNG. Let me export a DNG to see what happened here. I'm going to XDemo. Alright, let's see if it happens. Okay, let's redo it again. So before I do, let's go to a second image so we can have a look at it. So remember I told you about that this software could potentially give you new life on some of the older photographs. So if you have a very old raw file, which coming from back in the early days of digital photography, such as the EPL1, maybe even older. Yeah, I have a lot of my older images, my archive in the early days. I have a lot of raw file from my 5D, which is original Canon 5D, which is back in the 2005. So that's about what, 16 years ago now, almost. And so I'm going to have a play with all those files. Well, and don't forget that particular full frame camera in back in them days was really good, but it's still pretty noisy at 1600 ISO. You get good result between like 100 to 800, and anything kind of go above that is going to get a little bit messy. But I'm going to go back to it to see some of those files, whether I can actually rescue it to see what happened. But what DxO gave me another thing to play with is this particular image here. So let's see this one here. So this is a bird in flight shot from the Eagle, and this is shot with a relatively old camera. It's a Nikon 300S. So a lot of people using this crop sensor for do a lot of wildlife photography because you can get extra reach. And that's, of course, before we have a brilliant micro four thirds system. But anyway, joking aside, yeah, this is a very old file. It's shot at relatively high ISO for that camera. Is ISO 2500. You can see on the left-hand side, that's the metadata here. You can see 2500. It was shot at f6.3 at 1600th of a second, which is a fairly fast shutter speed to freeze the action, of course, and at 600 millimeters, so it's a really long lens. Okay, so this file, you can see that is quite noisy, and don't forget this is a very old file, and back in them days the noise level on sensors were quite horrible, like I mentioned about my earlier days of full frame 5D even, and the noise were quite horrendous once you get to 1600. But this is an old image, and let's see what if I do something about the noise stuff. And let's turn it back on again. So if I do HQ, so this is a standard noise reduction with no AI stuff. you can still see the noise is quite horrible. It's creeping in. It's just not nice. Let me bring it in a little bit closer. So now you can see, you know, the dots. I don't know if you can see that quite clearly from your screen through streaming, but for my screen here, I can clearly see a lot of noise, even with the reductions on. The luminance noise is still there. It's still very obvious. But if we put on prime now, and instantly you can see that the it's a little bit better. It got a little bit more detail on the feather, which is actually okay. That's okay. That's pretty good. What I want to look at this now is the DeepPRIME. Okay. Okay, let me just bring in here. This, okay, remember this. So let me just look at the bokeh detail here. Right, guys. If you look at the right hand side of the screen here. Okay, let me just go back to off. See the noise. Now turn it back on. With DeepPRIME. You see the actual outer focus area and the feather, and go back to HQ. It's a big difference there between the two, and I think it's pretty amazing. I think it's pretty amazing. And Thomas, hello there. Thomas is in the original image folder. I actually starting to run the. Let me go back to see if it's there. Oh, actually, I got the DNG file. Finally exported. There we go. Right, actually I got it. Right, let me just export this again, so so you guys can see the difference between the standard and the new DeepPRIME noise reduction software. Okay, let's just go in here and have a look. I'm not going to use DNG now because it's too big, and I'm just going to do standard JPEG output. And I'm not going to go to that. I'm going to DXO demo because that's where I store everything. It's strange it's actually changed earlier. So okay, let's go that. Right, it should be there fairly quickly. Okay, there we go. So this is the image with HQ. Let me do a DeepPRIME and export it again. It will take a little bit longer just because the Deep AI thing is pretty task intensive. I'm gonna use a unique name, so we generate a second version. Camille, I've had enough with Adobe subscription. Me too. I'm still paying for that. I'm telling you. And but this is cool. This is cool, especially the noise reduction side of it. I mean, I have been using DXO's Nick software, the noise things. I've been using that actually, and but until the PhotoLab 3, and I've been using Prime. But now with this DeepPRIME, and it's pretty cool. Right, let me just go in here and open up the other photo here. So let me open up. Oops. Oh, sorry about that. There we go. So I got two versions here. Oh, let me just close this one off, and I'm going to bring up the other one. So I got two versions here, so hopefully I can see it side by side. Let's bring it up side by side so you can see them. And although that is not really a comparable shot, so I'm not bringing it into Lightroom. So first of all, you can see the outer focus area here. If I blow it up just a little bit bigger, and you can see the noise level is pretty horrendous. And let me go to here. If you blow it up a little bit, you can really tell which one is which. And so let me just bring it up for here. Okay. Guys, can you see that? These two side-by-side shot here. So what this one here is the DeepPRIME version, and this is with the normal HQ version, which is fairly equivalent to Lightroom. And if I process this photo in Lightroom, I'm pretty much getting the one on the right-hand side in terms of the details and also the noise reduction. If I crank it all the way up in Lightroom, it will look pasty. It just doesn't look good whatsoever. It's just going to look horrible. That's why I never really use the Lightroom noise reduction. It's just too aggressive, and it would just get rid of all the details, which I actually don't want. I'd rather have more noise and keep the details than actually losing all the details and look clean. In fact, it just doesn't look clean at all. It just looks horrible. It looks fake. But this one actually is not bad. It's let me just scroll up a little bit. You can see the actual eagle detail itself. And it's pretty astonishing how you can actually achieve with this this new DeepPRIME technology. I know DXO has been working on this for quite some time now, and they didn't release this in PhotoLab 3, which they were still working on it, and I'm quite surprised to see this technology, and I'm hoping to see it improve over time as well, because I know this is a deep learning thing, so over time it will keep improving itself. So this could be something for the future. Let's go back to the demo again. So let's go back to the software. So let me give you another demo here for another photos. So I think I was playing with another file earlier, and let's look at this one. Oh, David, you know the software. Yeah, Nick Define, that's the one I used. Yes, that's right. Define is kind of my go-to noise reduction, and when I was working with Lightroom, because I just export out, so trying to do the denoising externally using the Nick Define software, and then jump back to Lightroom and continue editing. So that's what I usually do when it comes to noise reduction. And when PhotoLab 3 came about, so I did the same thing, but with PhotoLab 3 for noise reduction, and come back again, because I never really liked the noise reduction in Lightroom. It's just too aggressive and just doesn't look nice whatsoever. So there we go. That's another photo here. Let me just switch off the DXO noise reduction whatsoever. So this is the original image, and let's look at what camera we're using here. So this is a D4, Nikon D4, shooting at 6400, f2.8 at 1/200th of a second. Fantastic, right? You know, like a D4 is known for a low light king thing, kind of, because it's smaller, it's got bigger photo sites, and it's got a low resolution files. It's just a pretty darn good low light performer. But you can see that the noise are still there, and the details is there, but it's kind of being masked by the noise. So let's go to just standard HQ noise reduction, and instantly you can see that it does a pretty okay job on smoothing out skin, which in this particular case, if I zoom back out, is not too bad at all. Because you're looking at a singer, obviously she's the main focus, and you really don't want to see noise on her skin and things like that, because it's going to be bad. You don't want your favorite artist to look bad with the skin, have a bad skin day basically. So it's okay just like looking at it like this, but then it's just lacking a little bit of sharpness if you look at it in detail. So let's go into one to one now, so you can see pixel level. So you can still see a little bit of detail around about the hairline there, but you can see on her eyelashes and also eyebrows, is almost all the details are gone. So if you go to Prime, which kind of like an enhanced version of it, right, detail is starting to creep back in, which is good. But wait until you see the DeepPRIME, which is actually pretty cool. So this is DeepPRIME. So I don't know if you can see the actual box here. So let me just move it down here, so you can see the detail on the eyelash. It's almost like magic. It comes back out. I don't know how they actually analyze it. And then let's go to the hairline, and right about here. Can you see all the hair detail? And then now it goes back to Prime. You can see from the little box here, you can see the difference. And that is Prime, which is actually okay, but definitely not as sharp as DeepPRIME. And this is standard HQ. You can see a lot of the smudging going on again. So this is a pretty astonishing technology that they have here. But of course, as I said, I haven't played with Topaz before, so I wouldn't know if I compare the same shot with Topaz whether it's going to perform equally. But from the presentation slide I saw, if the color is going to be a major problem, that means I have to do more work to it, and that could be a major downside for any professional photographer. May not be so for amateurs, because you have the time to deal with all the color issues and things like that. But like I mentioned, if I work in a commercial environment, time is money, and time is critical for me. I need to turn around jobs fairly quickly. So any jobs like these, for instance, if I'm shooting an event, I needed to turn around these shots quickly. I can't be asked or to be bothered to really spend a lot of time really trying to work the colors out, redoing everything, trying to make it look right again. So even though Topaz may be okay for denoising it, but if they get rid of the colors and trying to go back into it again, it could be a problem for me. So obviously, like I mentioned, I will have to probably try Topaz to see whether it will do the same thing what the presentation slide told me. But if it doesn't, of course, that could be an isolated case. But if it does, it could be a problem. But so far, just looking at isolated case in the PhotoLab 4 with the DeepPRIME noise reduction, and I do think that it's doing a darn good job for just getting rid of the noises and retaining all the detail, or more so, extracting the detail from a noisy scene, which is actually quite impressive. Let me give you another shot here, and so this is more of the standard shot that I was playing around with. So this is nothing to do with DeepPRIME. Oops, sorry about that. It's doing something. There we go. Right. So this is all about just general editing. Actually, I do, and I love using the Photoshop. Sorry, not Photoshop. PhotoLab, is that I do like the local adjustment, because the local adjustment is pretty cool here. So you can see these typical scenes here, and I don't know how many of you have seen my PhotoLab 3 review. One of the things I love about PhotoLab compared to Lightroom is the local adjustment tools. So if you go back to Lightroom, and which is something that I do. So if I want to, let's say, locally adjust certain things, you have, of course, a whole bunch of tabs around here. You can do something. You can have a brush, then you can have the mask, circular mask, you can have the gradual filter mask, and you can do all sorts of stuff, which is all cool, you know. Like, but the thing is, once you do that, let's say if we want to bring in a circular mask here, if I want to mask out here, I want to change something, I want to bring up shadow, whatever, you can see the changes here. If I want to expose something, yeah, so I have to basically looking at this thing and I have to physically turn my head to the right and look at the palettes here and do the sliders and go back to the actual image itself to see exactly what's going on. What the difference between the PhotoLab is the usability side of it. So if I add a local adjustment tool, so instantly you can see that I already actually apply something here. So as you click onto the actual adjustment point, you can see everything locally. You don't have to swing your head to the right and look at the palettes and do all the slider on the right before you can see what's going on the left-hand side of the frame. So now you can have everything centralized. So you can actually crank up the temperature. You can do things here, and you can see things obviously fairly instantly. This is one of the viewpoint stuff that I like about the PhotoLab. It's pretty much like Nick. Nick has the same thing, and which is something I use a lot. I simply think it's way more intuitive to use than actual Lightroom itself, and it's a lot faster and more accurate because you're not turning your head left and right trying to make sense of everything. And this is all local. And same thing, if you right click to the point, you can actually change to everything as well, quite locally here. You can have brush, you can have the automation here, gradual filter, which is exactly the same thing what you have in Lightroom, just better in this particular case. It's more usable, I think it's more intuitive to use, and just more local, which is what I like about it. So and let me just click back out here. So if I just turn off, so you can see I could just do the local adjustment there, and there's nothing else will be touched, which is actually pretty cool. And Victor, thank you, just trust me. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, if you guys want to see the files, I can actually post on Facebook. You can actually see the files itself, and you can make up your mind there. Or just better still, download the trial and just try it. Obviously, it's no charge there. It's just a trial. The link is in the description. You can actually try out to see for yourself. Let me just bring up another file for you to play with, or for me to play with. Okay, there's another scene here. Right. This is another thing that's pretty cool here. That's another test file that DXO gave me. This is shot with D4S from Nikon again. Why no Canon? Give me some Canon files. Okay, this is a shot with, bear with it. This is a shot at ISO 12,000. 12,000. This is extreme high ISO stuff now we're talking about. Shot at f4, it's 1/1250th of a second, so it's a fairly fast shutter speed. That's why you can see these splashes and everything. All the details are there, and it is pretty amazing how much you can see just by looking at this right now. But then don't forget that this is without this is already with noise reduction. Let me bring up the detail first. Let me bring up just 1:1. Okay. So it's a very decent thing, you know. D4S is quite a thing. It's a low light camera, and you can see it does the job fairly well. But let me switch off the noise reduction here. Okay, bam! You can see noise absolutely everywhere, and once again, you know, it just quite astonishing how much noise you can see once you switch off the default noise reduction. Because if you bung into Lightroom, it's the same thing. It got some default setting straight away once you import it. Of course, you can switch it off where you can set up the import setting, and you can change everything. You can just have it clean when you import it and do everything yourself. But by default, there will be something applied to the file. So that's why you always see it a little bit better than normal. Once you switch it off, that's what you see. This is the absolute raw file. So if I turn on HQ, the standard noise reduction, which you see, it does a really good job at getting rid of all those horrible color noise. But that's the thing. The thing is starting to improve a little bit when you look at the details here. Now let me just bring it up to the server right here. So you can see that the face is kind of recognizable. You can still kind of just about make sense of the words and maybe a little bit of the details on his arm here. And his splashes are looking okay from distance, but if you look closer, you see there's a lot of smudging going on. And let's go to Prime. Okay, it's processing. Okay, instantly you can see. You can really see. Let me move it a little bit now. Can you see the word behind the server? You can see the actual text itself now compared to HQ. And wait for it. And let's turn on DeepPRIME and see what happens. This is DeepPRIME. Can you guys actually see the text at the back of his at his back? So can you see the detail here? It's bleeding. Oh, it's bleeding. Shocking. Just all right. Let me export this because I want to blow it up to you guys to see it. So let me export as a JPEG, and then and you can see it from there. And let's have one with just HQ. Okay. So let's export with a HQ shot. Okay, and right. Both of them have been exported. Right. Okay, let's waiting for it. The focus, yep. Okay, the progress bar is done. That means it's okay. So there we go. We got the first shot. This is the one with the DeepPRIME. Okay, so I'm going to bring up another photo now, which is the one with HQ. Okay, so let's put it side by side. You can see the difference. I hate this. Right, okay. Let me just bring it over here. Let me enlarge it slightly, just about in line with the other one. Okay. Guys, can you see the difference between the two? I know it's not exactly the same because I'm not bringing it into Lightroom to do a side-by-side comparison here, so I'm just about touching, so doing it manually by doing a side-by-side here. Right, the first thing you'll notice is that the text behind the server is a lot clearer, a lot sharper. You can actually see the letters, even though I can't quite make sense of it, but then you can see the letters. And it's just no comparison in terms of how much detail it can actually retrieve from the noisy file. So even if you look at the water at the bottom here, just look at the bottom here, you can see the noise is still present in the HQ file, which will be the same thing as Lightroom. And if I crank it up in Lightroom, it will look something like the one on the left here. The water will be fairly clean, but then the rest of them, all the detail will be gone. So it would be something very, very different here. So let's have a look at the, look at the presentation slide here. I think there's one photo about this particular case here. Let's just see if this where the server is. I can show you that. Okay, there we go. So I'm not sure you guys can see this slide here, and then this is the PhotoLab on the left, Lightroom in the middle, and then Capture One on the right. So this is interesting because this time it's not looking at Topaz. But very similarly, you can see that this is exactly what I got earlier, and you can see the text very clearly in the back of the server. And you can look at Lightroom. It's a complete chaos. It's just like no detail whatsoever there. It's completely smudged up. There's nothing left. Absolutely nothing left. And look at the Capture One. Capture One is actually not too bad. If you look at it, it does a fairly good job. And compared to DeepPRIME in PhotoLab, but Lightroom is a complete disaster. You know, like they, you know, this is something that struck me really in terms of Lightroom, is that they've been in the industry for so long and they have all the resources and experience in doing photo editing. And noise reduction is one of the big things that they keep ignoring, and the fact that they're ignoring so much that now everybody caught up, not only catching up, but they surpassed them by quite a margin, you know. And I mean, I'm being a pro using Lightroom as a workflow. I had to export the photos every time if there is something I need to denoise, and I have to go to either Define from Nik software or go to PhotoLab now, and which is really annoying at the time. You know, I don't know why they just wouldn't just come on, bloody hell, just sort out that thing. But anyway, we now got a very good solutions here, which is PhotoLab, and it's turned out to be, you know, one of my go-to now for noise reduction, and I think this feature alone is pretty awesome. You can actually do a lot with it. Like I said, if you go to like an old file, you can even just have a look at it and see, maybe you can rescue your old shot that was damaged or ruined by high ISO settings, but now you can bring it back and see what you can get. You might be shocked by yourself how much detail you can actually extract from your older photo. And I actually was trying to dig up some of my, like I said, I was trying to dig up some of my original 5D Canon 5D files just to check whether it's something you know, I could rescue, because there are some shots that I remember I was shooting at ISO 1600. The extended ISO back in the days were 3200, and there's already the top setting for it. But 3200 was, yeah, it's not usable. So I want to see how well PhotoLab would do, but I have to dig up my archive drive now because it's stocked somewhere in my box somewhere. So I need to find out where the drive is, and I can dig up all those files and see whether I can play around with these PhotoLab 4 and see DeepPRIME can rescue all those old shots that I had. You know, we shall see. This is something amazing. I mean, if it's something that you want to try out, and like I said, there's a trial a link there in the description. You can just click on it and it just goes straight to the download page. You can just have a play with it yourself. And there's no, obviously, I'm not selling it. You just have to try it and see for yourself if it's for you, and it's great. If it's not, you know, you can go back to your original method of denoising. Okay, that's I think that's probably all the demos that I would like to show you guys, and because you know, if you haven't seen all the other features that I talked about in PhotoLab before, I had the review on the PhotoLab 3. You can go back to check my other video, which is done very nicely, I would say, and it's very good there. Although there are more features that I can talk about in PhotoLab 4, but I think for me, the really standout thing is the DeepPRIME noise reduction, and all the others are more to do with I would say, the organization side of it, because I did comment in my PhotoLab 3 review was that the palette on the right-hand side was a little bit too complicated, and there's a lot of duplicates there. And now what they have done is they have put the little tabs on the top there to, you know, check to categorize them. So you got the exposures there, you got the colors there, and you got the resolutions there, you got the geometry there, and you got local adjustments. So it's a lot easier to find things. Before they were just it's all together in one huge column, and but now it's good. I like that, and it's definitely done a way better jobs in organizations, and also there's a batch processing thing, which is another thing. But if you're a Lightroom user, you'll be very familiar with it, so I don't have to talk about it. So anyway, so this is what I want to show you guys about the PhotoLab. Let me just go back to my normal screen now so I can talk to you guys a little bit more. So guys, what do you think about PhotoLab denoising thing? And I think it's pretty amazing. And it's only for me for playing around with the actual software itself, and I can already see that just by looking at a couple of the wedding photos I was doing, I could see the use of it, because I like I mentioned, I do shoot high ISO quite a lot, and not because because of Micro Four Thirds or anything like that, just because I had to, you know, like that. Like I said, there's no difference. You know, for my type of jobs, I use Canon 5D full frame. I had the Mark II, Mark III. I didn't do the Mark IV. That's before I jumped into Micro Four Thirds. But I have all kinds of cameras there. I mean, I'm still using Leica full frame, and this is another thing I still use. But the thing is, I often find a lot of photographers is that they worry about high ISO stuff. And like I said, if you need to capture that moment, if you need to capture something, just go with your gut and just do it, you know. Otherwise you're going to miss the shot, and you'll be you'll be regretted for life if you miss that moment. So like, you don't do that. And I think we are getting better in technologies, both hardware and software. You know, the hardware, I'm talking about, like, obviously camera sensors and processors are getting better and faster every single day. And then we have computation photography now that actually happening within the camera itself. And now we have the software side, which is now, it's almost like a complete thing now. You know, we have a lot of technologies to play with as a photographer, which is actually pretty cool. And you now have everything that you need to capture something that you enjoy in a much higher quality that you couldn't possibly do a few years back. And you know, I know people keep saying, you know, using Micro Four Thirds is not as superior compared to, you know, all the other camera formats out there, but I would say that no. I like my lighter system, I like my portabilities, and I like my moment shots. You know, I don't really care about noise at all. You know, sometimes I think that it actually adds a little bit of character to it. But now I have the option to denoise it in a very effective way, which is actually very good. So if my client wants to see cleaner image, which they never really asked me that about, but anyway, so they would now have an option. So I can give them cleaner image by using the DeepPRIME denoise in the PhotoLab 4, rather than going through other source of noise reduction. And like I said, you know, not trying to, you know, say anything or trying to be endorsed by anybody else, but I never ever, and I would urge you not to use denoise or noise reduction within Lightroom, because they are super horrendous. You know, this is coming from me just working with the software for so many years, and to be quite honest, their noise reduction feature, I haven't seen it change for the last 10 years. You know, it's almost, I'm using a 10-year-old software, and software has supposed to be improving every every year. You know, every update, I was expecting to see something better from Adobe Lightroom. I mean, they keep adding features, they keep doing this and that. I mean, it's cool that they add a lot of stuff like their textures and you know, whatever I can't remember the clarify thing. Anyway, so they have features added to it, but they ignore the noise reduction stuff. And I think that they were hoping that one day these cameras just have no noise, but no, that's not happening. Noise is always going to be there regardless. I mean, it's a simple mathematics and simple physics. So whenever you use a camera amplifying the signals in lower light situations, you're always going to get noise. So I think that now we have something to play with PhotoLab. We have a new kind of technologies that we can utilize to make our shot looks better, which is actually pretty cool. Like this shot that I just fairly quickly, I was only playing around with it, and I'm not very good at doing these sort of astro stuff, because I know there's specific way of editing it, because I'm not astrophotographer. But I want to show you this photo that I just purely messing around with it. So let's go back to this particular shot here. Oop, where is it? There we go. Right, this photo here is cool. You know, this is from their original file. Let me just go back to it just to show you what it looks like before. And that's what it looks like before. And so I was playing around with the sliders and then noise reductions and all sorts of stuff. And this is, look at that. This is shot at D800 at ISO 3200 again, and at 2.8. It's 24, so it's 2470 pro zoom lens, of course. So it's very dark, very dark. Of course, if you lift up the details and lift up the shadows and stuff, you see a lot of noise. But in DxO, you have something quite smart. It's called smart lighting. It's just basically one switch, and it just does everything yourself, and it's just pretty cool. And but this is something I'm pretty impressed as well. So I obviously in the detail shot here, I do use DeepPRIME, but you can see that the mountain detail has been reviewed from a pitch black shot. Let's just switch it off again. Look, it doesn't exist. I can't even see anything. And it just brings back to life. And right, anyway, enough selling. I'm not selling. I'm just joking. Okay, you guys have a play. You guys have a play. Like I said, if you want some of these files to play with, and I'm happy to post up online, and you can just get them and you can have a play around with yourself. Just download the software and maybe get some of your older files to play with. Looking at some of the high ISO files, where the 3200, 6400, check it yourself. You don't have to trust me whatsoever, yeah? Because I did it myself. I look at my older wedding photos and look at some of the high ISO stuff that I shot before, and I played around with it. And like I showed you a couple of the wedding photos I've just done earlier, you see the difference. It is quite a big difference there, and it's amazing. there's one word I can say about the DeepPRIME noise reduction thing. I think this one feature is enough to warrant that price I pay for the software. I think this as a professional, you know, it's quite hard to kind of argue with prices. If something works, I pay. If something doesn't work, I ignore, and as simple as that. So like it's not about you know, of course affordability is one thing, but don't forget that, you know, like when people ask me about buying cameras, it's the same thing. You know, why do I buy pro cameras, bodies like the EM1X or the EM1 Mark III instead of getting a EM5 or even the low? I could take same photo with an EM10 or the EM5, but why do I choose the EM1 or the EM1X? I mean, the EM1X are essentially a EM1 Mark III, just in a bigger body. But why do I do that? It's all for a couple of things. You know, as a professional, you need reliability, you need consistency. You know, like these are something that I need from a professional environment. Similarly, in software, if I work in something that works and the workflow seems to be flowing quite well, I keep on using it, and as simple as that. But if there is something that is better and makes my job easier as a pro and get my workflow done quicker and get my output cleaner and it helps me make more money, yay, I would not say no. And this would justify a lot of investment. And look, don't forget, software, hardware, they're all investments, you know, as a professional. And you want to make your money back, as simple as that. Yeah, you buy your pro lenses, there's a reason for it. You buy a pro body, there's a reason for it. I go through cameras like mad, you know, like my pro cameras will be dead in 2 years, you know, so I'll have to keep switching cameras. Not that because I want to upgrade, because they are physically dying, so I have to buy a new one. You know, this happens all the time in pro environments. Amateur is very different. You know, I've been there before myself. You know, I was an amateur before I became pro. You know, of course I like the latest and the greatest and all the gadget stuff. Yeah, you know, being a geek myself, and I like the best stuff, right? But also that would depend on affordability. If I was just working as an amateur, I don't have enough money to buy the next big thing, and I just wouldn't do it because I can't afford it, right? But if I can, yeah, if I have the money, I will buy it. But in pro environment, it's a very different story. I'm talking about, it's a money tool. You make money from your thing. So it's a very, very different categories there. That's why it's hard for me to recommend something if people ask me this and that. And yeah, it's just really depending on how you use your camera, how you use the software. It's a very, very different thing altogether. And that's why a lot of people, you ask me, do you want to go for Adobe subscription? I would say, do you use your thing a lot? Do you edit your thing like do you do anything that a pro would do? If you don't, there are many options out there, you know, and there are free options even. There are some free stuff. Of course, you can download free stuff if you're not very particular about certain things. But if you want to get more detail, more deep into your photography or editing your images, and you know, to make sure they can present or blow up in printings and things like that, and then you're starting to look at some alternatives. And there are obviously a lot of pay options that are great, you know, like PhotoLab already, so DXO already demonstrated. There are capture ones as really good professional alternatives. Lightroom, of course, is one of the kind of like the most popular options there. They have many, many, many options out there, and so you can try them all out. They all have trials, so don't forget, you know, you can try out Adobe. If you haven't used Adobe already, you can try out DXO, you can try out Capture One, you can try out everything. Try before you buy. So look, don't forget, yeah, I'm not selling anything here, so like, just try it if you want to see how it works. That's the best way to convince yourself as a photographer to see whether this software is for you. But go back to the philosophy in photography. Remember, don't worry about high ISO shooting, because you need to capture that moment and you need to capture it, and you just have to set it. And don't try to force yourself to use lower ISO, slower shutter speed, IBIS. I know it's very tempting, especially in the Olympus cameras. We have great IBIS there. You can just simply hold for 5 seconds to do the shots. But if you need to capture that moment, if you need to freeze that frame, freeze it. You know, you pump up the ISO 1600, 3200, 6400 even. Freeze the frame, capture that moment, deal with it later. And that's my philosophy of capturing the moment. Because in a professional environment, even though as experienced as I am in the commercial scenes, there are times you just don't have that split second to adjust your camera, and you just have to take the shot. And then I still have to take it. And in some cases, in some photos, it's actually turned out to be some of the greatest shots I've ever captured, and my client loved it. because of that moment. It's just that moment which you miss it. It's a split-second thing. If you miss it, you lose everything. And you just lose that great moment there that no one ever would see again. Maybe somebody probably couldn't even see it because they weren't there. So if you capture that moment and relive that moment again for your clients or for the clients' friends and family, they would be overjoyed to see that moment there. So for me, high ISO shooting, forget it. I don't mind, you know, I just pump it up if I need to, and I just have to live with the editing consequences. Right, okay, guys, I hope today is going to be a fun and hope it's not too boring, because editing sometimes can get a little boring there because you talk a lot and you're trying to adjust things and trying to make you see things, but it's also quite hard at the same time because I have to do it live, and also that you probably see the things being compressed a lot on the screen. It's not very easy to do live editing on YouTube because you won't be able to see the detail, but I can tell you that it's pretty amazing, pretty impressive. Go and try the software itself. You can actually see how much detail you can extract from a noisy file. If you're as impressed as I am, please leave some comments down in the description after you try it and let me know how you get on with the file, whether you're amazed with it or you're just not happy with it. You know, I want to know both, because I want to know. And if this is not something that you find it useful, then I want to know as well, because I find it okay, because I've been using it for the last few days now, just trying to work out all the noise reduction thing. It's pretty amazing how much detail it can actually bring back from my older files, and which is quite fun in a way, because if you look at some of the older memories and you didn't remember that were there, because when I processed those photos years ago, they didn't look like that. And now with a newer software, it completely transformed the photos. and this is something I also do every now and then, is that I look at some of my older raw photo, I will reprocess them. And I'm not joking, I reprocess some of the photos as old as 12, 13 years old. And I often find it quite interesting to see how much, not only the quality is different, but how much you has become better as an editor. You can see like now, once you become more experienced in editing, you know what those sliders are, you know what those features are, you know, and of course there are some new features along the way, you know, over time. When you reprocess those photos, you can easily see how much you have improved in terms of editing, and you can compare to the older shot that you've done, and you'll be quite shocked. It's quite fun. Now we're in lockdown, yeah, we've got lots of time, right? Hopefully, and you can try it yourself. Go back to some of the older photos, re-edit them, and see what you can see. Okay, guys, and thank you very much for your joining me today, and I hope you don't find it too intense or too long-winded in a way, because it's quite a long things to do, and I'm happy to demonstrate it and also talk to you guys about the high ISO stuff, because I don't think it should be something a photographer should be worried, you know. And technically you're capturing a shot like in the old days. Would I ever worried if I use a ISO 3200 film? No. Okay, that's a good analogy actually. Yeah, if in the film days, in the analog days, why would you buy an ISO 3200 film? Think about that. Just a couple of seconds, think about it. Why would I buy an ISO 3200 film? Yeah, I'm not talking about digital, I'm talking about film analog stuff. Yeah, remember we only used to be able to put one roll of film in the camera. Yeah, if you put a 200 film speed on the camera, 400 speed film in the camera, you are stuck with that film in the camera until the roll is finished, or unless you wind out prematurely. Have a think. Why? The answer is, I need 3200 to capture that moment. This is exactly what you should be thinking as a photographer, even in digital terms. If you need the speed to capture the thing, bloody use it. Bloody use it. Just use whatever you need to think you need to capture that shot. So there's no difference. It's going to be 3200, 6400, 1 million ISO. Don't care. If you need that, do it. But obviously, I wouldn't go as far as 1 million, because you probably won't be able to see anything anyway. Everyone would become Hulk, you know, like turn green or something. It just doesn't look nice at all. But you guess what I mean now. So think back, slow down, and just trying to think as a photographer, why would you want to shoot that a high ISO in the first place? If you need it, so be it. Okay, right. Any other comments that you I haven't answered, because I think I've been ignoring a lot of comments because I've been talking so much. Sorry about that. Camille actually says that not only the noise, but the details in Lightroom look worse than in Olympus and Capture One. Yeah, Olympus software is actually not too bad. I just don't like it being too slow, to be honest. And the Olympus software is actually not too bad at all. Okay, and let's see. KA actually said that ever since Adobe switched to the subscription model, I stopped using the softwares. I wish I do that, but because I'm so deep into Adobe in a way that you know. But I don't know if you see my library there. I mean, I have tons of photos there. I have multiple different libraries. I have things set up for it. So it's quite hard for me to kind of just switch it out like that. But now I can use other supplements like the PhotoLab, for instance. Like you can use it as a plugin. Don't forget, you can use Nick software as plugin, so you can get all sorts of benefits from all this software while still using the, let's say, Lightroom as your main kind of management in a way. And you can still do that. So that's no reason why you can't. And I think it's pretty cool that or flexible in a way you can do that. But yeah, it's something I'm slowly kind of looking at a solution to move out of Adobe in a way that is taking a lot of my money. I can tell you that now. It's not something that I enjoy paying, of course. You know, I used to just think about, you know, I buy Photoshop 4 or Lightroom 4 or whatever for £100, £120. I can use it for 5 years. And like you said, I can't do it now. I have to pay a monthly fee, and which is actually annoying. Oh yeah, On One as well. Yes, On One. Who else used On One here? And I actually tried the software a few years back now. I found it quite okay. And I know they have improved quite dramatically over the last couple of years. They have introduced a lot of new things going. I think they also introduced subscription as well. If you, I think there is a subscription model which gives you updates every year, something like that. So everybody is going the subscription way, which I personally don't like subscriptions. Roman, you're correct. I'm so sorry if I ignore some comments because I can talk for a long time. Roman, you know me too well. You've been to my live session for too long. And Thomas, hello there. Yes, of course. Your eyes will tell you in a minute. Yes, like I said, you know, you don't have to trust me. Just try it, and then you'll find out exactly why I'm getting a little bit excited. And by editing those noisy files, it's a good play. You know, if you're as geeky as I am, you know, you open up a raw file, a very high ISO raw file, you can have a good play with it. I don't think people in the 1920s had ISO 400,000. No, there isn't. Oh dear. Yeah, you know that they had really low ISO back in the days, and they have ISO 10, ISO 5. I don't know if you've even heard of it, ISO 5. And that's why, like, some of the older portrait, you know, I don't know if you've seen some of the older documentaries. If you use one of these larger format cameras and use a very low speed camera, you have to sit there for like 15 minutes or half an hour to expose a shot, and you just have to stay really still for the photograph. And then, but you know, we're so lucky these days. We have all sorts of high speed options, and digital is just so much more convenient now, and which is actually you know, changed the whole photography thing. Stannis has the largest market share. I think so. You know, when you're on the top of the mountain, you don't see anybody else because you're so high up, and I think that's the problem, right? You know, like that's a Chinese saying about being on top of the mountain, and it's a good saying. I think if you know, you can't always be number one, because there's always something going to be better than you at some point. And that is true. I mean, if you can't ignore everybody else who is surrounding you, maybe lower than you at that moment in time, you don't know what you're missing. And you stop pushing yourself, you stop motivating yourself. And that's why in photography, you know, no matter how good you are, no matter how great you are, always try to learn and get inspired by other talents. You know, like I keep looking at other people's photographs and I get inspired, I get happy about it, I get excited. How can they capture that shot? You know, how can I improve to become like them? You know, like I keep doing, even though, you know, I've been working in environments for so long, you know, for 15 years now, and I still find a lot of room for me to improve compositionally, creativity-wise, and editing-wise, everything. You know, it's still a lot to learn in this craft. I can't even call myself a master, even though after all this time that I've been in the scene, and I just continue to improve. You know, that's all I can say. You know, and that's why I like to look at a lot of photos and every single day on Facebook, on Instagram, on the news, and everybody go to exhibitions, you know, buy photo books. I just like enjoying it. This is kind of my hobby, you know, even though it's my job, but I still like photography, right? You know, it's, otherwise I wouldn't be doing it day in, day out for the last 15 years. So that's something I pretty much enjoying my life as a photographer, even though some may consider to be quite boring. As you can see that editing can be quite boring, but when you see something like this, it's kind of quite fun in a way. Okay, Tim, will clever AI ruin photography? You can edit and completely change a photo, swap out the sky, remove noise, etc. Right, there are two things here. There are absolutely two things here. Well, first of all, have a think about what we just said here. Editing and swapping out things and removing noisy thing is very different thing. It's a very isolated thing. You have to separate them together. So you have to do, if you shoot raw and full stop. If you're a photographer, you have to edit your photo, you know, because they come out raw is flat, horrible. You have to work on the file to massage it to the way you like. Swapping out sky, this is that we're talking about manipulation, and this is something that unless you are doing it as an art and as a montage, or you do it for a commercial request that you want to change the scene, you can do something about it. Yeah, that's manipulation. And then noise reduction is photo enhancement, and it's very, very different things here. So I would say that AI photography is cool, and because it can do something that traditional technologies can't do. And it has been demonstrated by this new deep learning thing, and I'm still kind of trying to understand the whole gist of it, but I'm not a scientist, so I can't really work out what's going on behind the scene. But anyway, this AI thing is pretty cool in a way that it does a lot of stuff that I couldn't imagine be doing, you know, and even like last month, you know, the noise reduction is pretty cool there, and that's something that I think it could continue to improve, and it will be even better over time. Editing wise, it's still very hands-on. You know, as a photographer, you still have to move those sliders here and there. You can still have to adjust the photos, do localized adjustment, do the things that you like to do to make sure your images looks great. Manipulation is really not my thing. You know, I'm not a photoshopper. I don't like to swap out skies and things like that. And I think there are different types of photographers out there. There are people who are an artist in a way, like to create artwork, make it look like it's a magical kingdom and things like that, so everything looks just grand. I'm more a real life documentary type of photographer, so I like to see things unmolested as it is, pure, you know. So I don't like to change things. I don't mind enhancing it by means of removing noise if I need to. I don't mind adjusting the photo editing in a way that I like to see the mood of the photos. I don't mind that. But manipulation is totally not my thing at all, and it's very easy to do it these days, especially for a lot of younger photographers who have never really been in the scene for so long, and they don't understand the essence of photography, for instance. But if you're doing art, and that's a totally different thing, like I said. So let's see. Xavier, Topaz Dino is pretty awesome too. If I knew it before, I might have stayed with Olympus. You can always come back, mate. You can always come back. Okay, and right. The on one sub is for tutorial stuff. Okay, forgive me, because I saw something about the tutorial thing. Sorry, the subscription thing, because I still subscribe to their newsletter, so they always send me a newsletter about subscription. I never kind of ignore them. And Victor, actually, Adobe has constantly improvements, and other things. Each editor has his requirements, and the majority didn't see the improvement. No, I agree. They do have improvements, and like I said, I've been using Adobe for so many years. I do see the improvement over time. It's still a lot of annoying things though. But having said that, all software has their own annoying section that I always group them together. Adobe, for instance, their speed is still horrendously slow, and I hate it. I hate the way they generate thumbnails. I hate the way they generate previews. The noise reduction is ridiculous. But other than that, you know, like a lot of things they're improving over time, and I do agree there are a lot more features than even 2 years ago. So they're getting better. They're getting better, and like anything, they're getting better all the time, right? You know, everybody is upping the game, which is good. Who's benefit? We, as a photographer, right? We are benefiting from all these lovely people who are working their ass off, you know, trying to get some new features for us to play with. And yeah, I wouldn't kind of denounce everybody. I wouldn't say that you know, one software is bad or this one is bad. But I do say that noise reduction in Lightroom is horrendous, and that's all I want to say. Because, you know, as much as I want to say, Victor, you know, like Adobe has a lot of improvement, I'm pretty sure that noise reduction is not one of them, because it remained the same for the last 10 years. It hasn't seen any improvement whatsoever in that particular area. Adobe Lightroom has a function called noise reduction. This function is lagging behind. Yes, it is. That's exactly what I said. It's just ridiculously horrible. Every height trend will be overdone at some point. Yeah, of course, when you have something new, you'll be up there at the top. You got the spotlight on you. Yay! You are the first one who did it. But don't forget, when you're there, you have to keep on improving it. You have to keep on top of it. If you think that you're there and you just ignore the rest of it, and you think that, oh, I'm there now, I have finally achieved my goal. And what happened? The next morning, you're not there anymore because someone else will be better than you. So like, keep doing it, and improve yourself. DXO released PhotoLab 4 today. Really great new noise reduction that looks fantastic. Ken Weiss, and absolutely, that's exactly what I just did. And hopefully you guys enjoy that though, and hope it's not too lengthy. And obviously, is like I said, doing live demo is quite hard, especially the software that I use here is kind of a little bit tricky to kind of going back and forth between different screen there, and also don't forget that I'm actually editing live and exporting live, and my computer fan is spinning like mad at the moment. I can see it is overheating, and it's not good for it. I turn noise reduction in Adobe Lightroom to 0 and do noise reduction in Topaz after exporting JPEG. And if you don't turn noise reduction to 0, Lightroom will wash out details exporting JPEG. That's very correct. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that the PhotoLab 4, the noise reduction, is that if you want to use DeepPRIME, you need the raw file. Because I tried in JPEG, it doesn't give you the option for DeepPRIME, and it may be just me not figuring out how to do it yet. But that I do notice that I try to use JPEG, and it wouldn't work, and or it wouldn't work as well. But anyway, so if you want to use DeepPRIME to its maximum, it needs the raw file. So make sure that you want, if for whatever high ISO noisy stuff that you want to denoise, make sure that you use the raw file in PhotoLab 4 if you want to try to do it. Don't use JPEG, and then and that will give you the optimal and the best results. Cool. Let's see if I missed any other comments there. Thank you very much for everybody, and okay. Oh, it's about my software. The software that I'm using for streaming, is it? I think that's what you're asking. Is Ecamm. Right. Okay. Adobe Lightroom is pretty good at HDR and panorama merge. Yes, I agree. Although I don't do too many panorama shots. Take a look at what happened in Adobe Prime, and lots of people go to DaVinci. Oh yes, DaVinci as well. Yes, yes. Oh, Premiere. You talk about the Premiere. Yes, you did. Cool. Right, guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed today's live stream. And next week is going to be different. Next week is not going to be as heavy as today, and I'm going to go back to my usual self, talk about photography and philosophy, and also my story. Because next week I'm going to tell you about my journey in photography. So for those who are still staying with me here today, and don't forget that I have a photo competition which is open to everybody. If you want to join me today, it's open to everybody. So let me just bring out the detail. It's called See the World Competition. You will be able to win lots and lots of stuff. Let me just get that detail out so you guys can see the competition. There we go. Okay. There. So this is the little banner that I made. Obviously not very professional, but I will make another one. And so I have a lot of prize sponsors already. And you got Olympus, 3-Leg Thing, DXO, and Holy Land, Laowa, Pergear, and Instinct. And I also got Cozy Speed from Germany, who's also joining the party for sponsoring some prizes. So that will be pretty cool. And you can go to the website seetheworld.gb.net to find out all the details and different categories that you want to submit your photos with. There's also one category for editing, and that will be something for people who are very good at editing. In this case, you are allowed for manipulation, because I want to see how crazy you can get with your photo editing. And for that, you have to submit the raw file. I need to see how much it comes, how good you are as an editor from the original file to the final output. I want to see exactly what's going on there, and then we will see who's the best editor out there, and you will win a prize as well. And there's also video. If you are a videographer, filmmaker, you will be able to enter a section within the videos, so you can win some cool and expensive prizes. I can guarantee that there's I don't want to say too much. I will disclose all the prices later on. You have to come to my Facebook page. I'm going to announce it there, but also we're going to do it here as well later on. And but if you want the first-hand details, my Facebook is my most frequently updated page. So just go there. You'll find me there, and you can see all the prices later on. Yeah. Altogether, it's a very, very cool competition. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And it's open now, so everybody is welcome, no matter where you are, because I'll be shipping all the prizes out. Speaking of shipping, there is a little fee attached to the entries. If you want to enter the competition, you have to pay a small fee just to cover the postage, because some of these prizes are big and heavy, and I just don't have enough money to send all the prizes out with, and so hopefully you help me out as well. But I hope this competition is going to be as fun and also as inspirational for everybody else, because it's good to see everyone learning from each other, and it's a whole initiative that I want to do to help promoting photography and creativity wise, for filmmakers and content creators, just to make sure that you stay in top of the game and then be good about everything. And I have some really cool judges as well, and some of them you may know about, but I'll be announcing all the judges later on as well. So don't forget, you have until end of November to submit your photos or your creation, whether it's going to be editing or videos. You have a lot to play with. You have a lot of good, very expensive prizes, and I'm so happy, and I'm also so grateful that all these sponsors are trusting me on this and then giving me all these lovely prizes for me to give out. And you win lenses, you win tripods, you win wireless transmitter, you win even clothing. You have hats and all sorts of stuff. So anyway, I don't want to leak too much now, and hopefully you guys will be able to enter, and that will be awesome. Excellent stuff. And I will see you all next time, I guess. And if you have any question about photography, you are very welcome to contact me directly. I've been receiving a lot of emails, so if I don't respond, not because I ignore you, because I may not have time to read your email yet, but because I do receive quite a lot lately, and about photography in general. So if you have any questions about photography, you want to improve your game, learn more about how you improve doing certain things with your cameras, let me know. And also leave some comment down below as well in the video if you want to talk about this particular software or this particular video, anything else you want to see in the future, and I will try my best to do it, because at the end of the day, I'm doing this channel for you guys, and I just want to be happy, joining the community, and be within the photographic scene as a human being, as someone who just want to have fun with you guys together and have a laugh and have a cup of coffee, even though it's completely cold now and just been talking too much. One last comment though, and let's see, I found the EM5 standard noise reduction balances noise and detail better than Lightroom's. Is there any free software that can do the noise as well as the EM5 Olympus Workspace? Funny enough, you asked about Olympus Workspace, because Olympus Workspace is based on the same algorithm that used in the camera. So yes, technically, if you use Olympus Workspace, it should do the same job as your EM5 Mark II. So try it out. Obviously, Olympus Workspace is free, so you can just try it out yourself and see whether you get the same results. I'm very, very certain that it's very, very similar, if not the same, because Olympus uses the same algorithm, same software, same codes within the camera and its actual workspace software as well. So there's no difference there. You can apply the same art filters, you know, in the workspace software. So pretty much the same thing. So you can actually do the same noise reduction if you wish. But don't forget to try out the PhotoLab as well. I think that might blow your eyes out a little bit. It's just, yeah, you're going to be surprised by the results of it. Okay, so Stanislav put the link to this site. Which link? You mean the photo competition link, or you want the download link for the PhotoLab 4? The PhotoLab 4 is already there. If you want to know the competition link, I will put it down there as well, so you can have a look at it. And I will bring it out again just one more time, so you can see it's seetheworld.gb.net. That's the competition there. So guys, thank you very much, and I know I've been talking for nearly 2 hours. Whew. Well, it's not record setting. I think my longest live talk is 2.5 hours. Yeah, I'm crazy about live stuff, and well, for people who are regularly here, you know exactly how long I can talk, right? You know, I can talk a lot, you know, a lot of stuff. But next week, like I said, it's going to be a little bit different, a bit lighthearted, a little bit more about photography, a little bit about my journey as a photographer, how I get started to become where I am today as a professional working in the industry for 15 years. Now I'm an ambassador for Olympus and also for Holyland, and so this is a lot going on there. So people who want to know exactly how I get there, and you should check out my next live stream next Wednesday. So I hope that everybody would enjoy and come back again to have a chat again. So it will be quite fun. So once again, thank you for coming, and sorry I didn't answer all the comments today because I have been too busy talking, apparently. So so that's not very polite of me, so I do apologize in advance. And but for those who stayed on and listened to everything that I said, and I do really appreciate your support and really appreciate you know, your patience being sitting here listening to everything. But don't forget, this is your reward. The competition is your reward. If you want to show me exactly what you capture, look at the terms and conditions there, and it's basically open. You are allowed to enter with any images and any videos. There's no limitations there, no restrictions there, no location restriction. You can be anywhere in the world. You can submit a photo that is taken 20 years ago. It doesn't really matter. As long as it's a great image, I want to see it, or great video. So anyway, so I'll see you guys all later, and have a good weekend. Oh, good weekend. No, it's only Wednesday. Good week and then weekend. And I'll see you all next week. And stay tuned for my Sunday video. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it as well. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and put on the notification so you know you won't miss any content from me. So until next time though, I shall see you all very soon. Bye for now.